So we just saw Ryan Garcia come out and say that he's interested in taking the fight with Rolly Romero. Surprise, surprise. He's interested in fighting a man who holds a world title at 140 pounds. What do you expect me to be surprised about that? I was at the Rolly Romero fight, and right away people were already talking about who are you interested in, the name that Rolly Romero was mentioning, or one of the names that Rolly was mentioning, and one of the names that a lot of people were mentioning, myself included, was Ryan Garcia. Dude, it makes sense. When you're a guy like Rolly Romero, dude, he's in this weird spot when you really think about it. Like, he's not going to go out at 140 pounds and fight the best of the best. We all know that. We saw that fight with Barroso, right? We saw the incredible controversy that marked that stoppage. We saw the performance that he was putting on before it, right? And I'll get into the actual performance and the technique and what I think about it and everything in a second. But he's in this weird spot, right? Because we saw that. We saw that, and everybody know how we felt about that. But he ends up getting a world title off that one. So he's not going to go out and fight the best, because if he goes out and fight the best at 140 pounds, I think it's going to end up being trouble, right? He's not quite big enough for the weight class, if you ask me. Like, if you look at it, like, is he going to be able to stand up against the biggest punchers at 140 pounds? Is he going to be able to stand up to the most athletic guys? What about the physically the biggest guys? Because Rolly isn't physically amongst the biggest guys at 140 pounds. Is he going to fight somebody who's, incredibly skilled to potentially try to unify the titles, but isn't a big name guy? Like, none of those things are going to happen. Right? None of that stuff's going to happen, yet he holds a world title. So that's what I mean in the sense that it kind of puts him in this funny spot. So who's he going to fight? So Ryan Garcia was always, in my opinion, the leading candidate to end up getting this next fight with Rolly Romero. So lo and behold, one thing leads to another. All of this materializes, and all of a sudden Ryan Garcia is like, hey, you want it? Let's come get him. You want to run your mouth? You want to say that you want to do this? Let's make this fight happen, right? Rolly Romero's talking about how this is a fight that boxing needs, so looks like we're going to end up getting it, right? It's a big money fight. Both men are going to make a lot off of it. There's going to be a world title. No matter who wins that fight, that man's going to hold a world title, which is going to make him more marketable and give him more leverage in making, the future fights that he goes for. So it's kind of a win all the way around. Promoters, managers, trainers, everybody's going to get paid. Fans are going to enjoy it. I mean, we know the type of buzz that Ryan Garcia brings to the table and the amount of fan base that he brings and everything that comes with that. So it should be awesome in all that regards. Now, as far as the actual fight is concerned, allow me to say this. Look, I'm going to be perfectly honest, man. I think Rolly's going to be in trouble. I really do. And here's what I mean when I say he's in a weird space when it actually comes to in the ring performance and in the ring activity. When you look at him prior to that fight with Gervonta Davis, or even including the fight with Gervonta Davis, what he was known for was this power punching dude who comes forward, applies pressure, and eventually lands that big shot, hurts people, and gets him out of there. Right? That was his calling card. That was his identity. That was his thing. He was a power puncher. He would track guys down. He would get to them, and the punches that he threw, they were hard punches. They had bad intentions on them. He wasn't known for being defensively responsible. He wasn't known for setting things up with the jab. He wasn't very fleet of foot and working angles or anything crazy like that. That wasn't his thing. He did what he did. So then he goes out there, he fights that exact same way against Gervonta Davis. He ends up, getting ahead of himself, getting off balance. He ends up putting himself in a bad position, gets caught with a nasty counter left hand from a dude who is a puncher and puts him out. Now, a lot of us weren't exactly surprised by that outcome. But what we saw, in the build-up to this fight that he ends up getting with Barroso, he says, hey, I need to be more patient. It's one of the things that I need to work on. So we see him, he comes up with this fight with Barroso, and lo and behold, he's more patient. But he was more patient in a way that wasn't beneficial, right? And I all due respect, hear what I'm about to say. He was doing his best impersonation of a patient fighter. And what I mean by that is he really didn't own it. Like, he didn't go out there and actually truly own what being a patient fighter is, which is not forcing anything, but constantly being there and being ready. That wasn't the vibe that you got. You got the vibe that it was almost unnatural, that it was like he knew that he needed to be patient, and what that meant was not putting himself in a position to also take advantage of the mistakes that Barroso made or the openings that were there, or trying to actually create openings. He wasn't using a lot of fakes or a lot of feints. He just wasn't doing those types of things, right? So the fight, he ended up missing a lot of stuff, and one thing led to another, and then we saw how the stoppage went. He wasn't even landing shots in the exchange, and all how it went down. He still ended up getting caught with a right hook. He ended up getting put down earlier in the fight. So A lot of things that he needs to work on. So if he ends up going into this fight with Ryan Garcia, and Ryan Garcia, I believe, is going to be fully motivated, man. I mean, look, we saw what happened in that last fight. Okay? We saw how that went down, and that went down in a lot of ways like exactly what we would expect from a Ryan Garcia fight. We saw a guy out there who tried to land too many power shots. We saw a guy who became predictable in what he does. We saw a guy who didn't move his head off the center line and wasn't defensively responsible. And then at the very end, we saw a man who got caught with a body shot, went down, and at the count of 10, he gets counted out. At the count of 11, he stands up. Due to that, there's a lot of people out there calling him a quitter. A lot of people out there saying that he quit in that moment in the boxing match. Afterwards, Showtime releases their epilogue, and you caught a little conversation between him and Joe Goosen in the corner. And one of the things that he said, Joe Goosen asked him, he's like, "Hey, did he catch you on the rib? Was that about the rib injury?" And he's like, "Yeah, I didn't want to go any or compete any further, or I didn't want to keep going because of the rib." So one of the things that we ended up finding out was that he sustained a rib injury in training camp and sparring. He gets punched in that same position spot by Gervonta Davis. He no longer wants to go forward. People are labeling him a quitter, right? He ends up leaving Joe Goosen probably for reasons unrelated to that incident. Who knows? It could have been the thing about the Joe making mention of how Ryan Garcia wasn't dedicated in camp and he wasn't showing up, but maybe 3 days a week, things like that. Wasn't really all that coachable, all that kind of stuff. A lot of the same things that Eddie Reynoso was saying. But he ends up leaving Joe Goosen. Now he's training with Derrick James, right? The same Derrick James that trains Errol Spence Jr., who's got a ridiculous fight coming up on July 29th against Terrence Crawford. But that's not what this video is about. So he's down there. He's training now with Derrick James. So I think he's going to come out. He's going to be incredibly motivated, right? Now, he's going to be motivated to redeem himself. He's going to be motivated to look good. He's going to be motivated to come out here and get another win. You know, he's going to be motivated to show everybody that they're wrong about labeling him as a quitter, or they're wrong about labeling him limited as a fighter or an Instagram fighter or a model or any of the other disparaging remarks that you hear people say. I feel like Ryan Garcia is going to come out and he's going to be incredibly motivated to prove all those things wrong. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to translate to him being a better fighter. That doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden he's going to start listening to what his trainer has to say and Derrick James is just going to be hammering this dude with knowledge and reps, and he's going to be getting everything down, and he's going to be picking up things that Errol Spence is putting down in the gym, but he's going to come out and he's going to stay behind that jab. He's going to actually be more patient. He's not going to throw the same punch 3 times in a row. He's going to get his head off the center line and use more upper body. Man, that doesn't mean any of those things are going to happen. Doesn't mean all of a sudden he's not going to be flat-footed. Doesn't mean any of those things are going to happen. He's going to have a great body attack now. Not necessarily, right? So I don't know how it's necessarily going to translate in the ring. But I do think he's going to come in and be incredibly motivated to put on a good performance for himself, for working with the new trainer, to shut up the haters, to set up future big fights, just a whole lot of reasons. And I think he's going to have a prime opportunity to look good against a man like Rolly Romero. Dude, Rolly, he's going to be the smaller man in there for sure. Rolly doesn't have the greatest chin. And we all know that Ryan Garcia can crack, particularly with that left hook. Ryan Garcia is physically more gifted, right? He's faster. He's got much faster hands, and he's got much more power than Rolly Romero. And Rolly isn't defensively responsible, man. He's not going to be going in there and he can catch and shoot a little bit. He's got some good counter shots here and there, but overall, at the end of the day, unless he's coming out with some new wrinkles in his game, I think he's going to have his hands full against Ryan Garcia. I think that is a fight that I see it highly unlikely to go the distance. Somebody is going to go in there and land a big shot because neither man is all that interested in the art of the sweet science in the sense of hitting and not getting hit. Like I've said, neither man is exactly defensively responsible. Should be a very exciting fight. Should be packed full of trash talk leading up to it. I imagine the press conferences and the sound bites that we get are going to be pretty entertaining. But as far as the actual fight's concerned itself, as I sit here right now today, I think Ryan Garcia should be a decent-sized favorite going into that one. So, let me know what you guys think. Is there anything that I could be missing in this one? Do you think it was more about the style matchup with Ismael Barroso? Maybe it's because he's a southpaw and he punches so hard and just he's having flashbacks to that fight with Tank and just the way the left hand comes in, being southpaw and orthodox, and that's something that's difficult for Rolly to deal with. But since Ryan Garcia is orthodox, he won't necessarily have those types of trouble. Or am I seeing it correctly, and this is going to be an opportunity for Ryan Garcia to snatch up a world title at 140 pounds. Let me know what you guys think.